give up now, and I am not afraid to climb another mountain, to risk it all, to face my deepest, darkest fear, to live a dream much bigger than I can imagine, 'cause I want the world to know that I am here. I believe that I'm unstoppable.
Advis is Africa's leading digital educational platform, which enables administration, communication, finance, teaching, and learning beyond the classroom. Advis allows you as a parent to access and track your child's academic reports and personal growth at any time, giving you a better understanding of your child's academic performance.
Have a nice day at school.
We give you the security and reassurance you need to excel in your daily activities and manage your financial obligations to your child's education. Advis provides an administrative and management system which enhances accountability, teamwork, and growth needed for a thriving organization.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you're joining us today. My name is Nena Okore and I'm the Director for Learning and Research, Advis, and welcome to another episode, another amazing episode of our monthly SGA webinar. SGA simply means School Growth Academy, and in our monthly webinars, what we basically do is to share ideas from professionals and experienced experts who come on stage and give us ideas about how we can grow our schools, what we can do to reimagine education in Africa, what we can do to help our students learn better and solve the numerous learning challenges that we have in our world presently. So today we'll be having a robust discussion on lifelong learning and competencies-based learning. What is the difference between the two of them, and how can we help our students achieve both forms of learning? And we hope that you'll be able to learn with us as we go along on this journey. I can already see some of us have joined us on our live pages on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. I would like us to please type in the chat box to show that we are ready to learn, and also state where we are coming from at this moment. Thank you very much. So before we introduce our guest, we'll just play a 2-minute promotional video about what Advis is all about, and then we'll introduce our special guest for today's session.
Schools do not have to let the number of classrooms available limit their potential for growth. With PL by Advis, you can offer your curriculum to thousands of students all over the world with pre-recorded content and live, one-on-one, or group tutoring. Parents can now gain access to tutors in the best schools in the world for their child. No need to pay exorbitant fees while turning the area of weakness to strength for your children with a personalized learning tailored to their best learning method. Students can now learn topics and subjects of their choice from schools and tutors all over the world at their own pace and learning style. Scaling up in your academic performance.
Welcome back. So today we are going to talk about lifelong learning and competencies-based learning. And I have three special guests with me today. I'll be introducing them in no particular order. I'll start with the only male figure in our midst for today, Mr. Okechukwu Anunobi. He's the director he's the director and the vice CEO of Divine Offspring International Schools here in Lagos. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Okechukwu. Thank you. Can you see me? Can you hear us? All right. Thank you for joining us. And then we also have Vicky Ajishe. Vicky is a life coach and she's been amazing trying to help teachers and a lot of people, education is come into the teaching profession with lots of confidence. And also she's the founder, the CEO and founder of Teacher Come Millionaire Network. Welcome and thank you for coming, Victoria. Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And then we also have Dr. Tony Elumelu. I hope I pronounced the name properly. And Dr. Tony is an astute life coach as well. And she's also the lead consultant for Core Skills Development Program that has, created a lot of programs for teacher facilitation and also teacher development. Thank you for coming and thank you for joining us, Ma.
You're welcome. Thank you,
So,
Nina.
yes, so I would like to have all the guests on stage right now because we're about to go into the nitty-gritty of the discussion today. Yes, so the topic looks a bit too academic, right? It looks a bit too academic, and when people hear of lifelong learning, competencies-based learning, it sounds like, okay, just keep going to school, just keep going to school and learning and doing research. But really, what is the difference between lifelong learning and competencies-based learning? I'll start with Victoria Ogunlade Ajishe.
All right, thank you so much. So I believe that lifelong learning is something that, for anybody at all, it doesn't matter if you are an educator, an adult, or but it's just a form of learning that you do outside of the formal education that you've gotten, right? So it's something that you do intentionally by yourself. You just decide, okay, I'm done with school, but I still want to keep learning and being better, progressing in my way of life. Then you focus on lifelong learning. So it's something that doesn't have an end. You just keep doing it. Then competency-based learning has to do with, there are skills that you probably have gotten, and then you want to make sure that those skills, you want to show your expertise, you want to learn more about it, and you want to show yourself, very relevant in that particular competence. So you've learned about a particular skill and you want to ensure that you are able to show yourself as someone that is really great at that thing. And it's something that you can do for yourself as an educator, and you can also train your children, the students that you teach. So you've taught them some different concepts in the classroom, but how can these competencies, how can those skills that they've learned be relevant for them outside of school in their adult life as they grow through the educational level from the younger stage to the secondary level, tertiary, and even when they get into the field of work. So competency-based learning is more focused than lifelong learning. That's a brief summary of the differences.
Wow, thank you so much. Do we have any other thing to add, Mr. Okechukwu?
Okay, beautiful day, everyone. I don't know if I can be heard.
Yes, we
Yes,
can hear you
okay.
clearly.
Okay, because when Ms. Victoria was speaking, the network was breaking somehow. All right, thank you very much for having me once again, Advis. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So for me, just to add to what she said, for me, lifelong learning is the overall objective, basically. Why competence learning deals with the process of evaluating our ability or what we have learned per se. For lifelong learning, basically, it's something that we need to keep doing till the end of our life, be it through formal learning opportunities, non-formal learning opportunities, or informal learning opportunities. But the idea is to keep learning as we go, as we progress in life. But competency-based learning is just, for me, another approach or methodology in ensuring that we are learning what we should be learning, or we have learned what we should have learned, basically. It's another strategy for measurement. It's another way of gauging understanding of what has been learned, be it in the classroom or be it outside the classroom, as long as you want to evaluate what you have been learned. So this is just adding to what Victoria said. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okay. That brings me to your comment brings me to the next question that I have, and I'll direct this question to Dr. Toyin. Looking at the world that we currently live in, what are the key competencies that we need to start teaching children in the classroom? Yes, we can't really foresee the future. We don't know what is going to happen in the next few years to come, but what do you think is the um, what are the standard competencies that every child should develop at this stage or of
Okay.
life, in preparing them for the future?
Thank you so much, Inena. And it's nice to be on stage with you, Victoria, and also Mr. Chuku. So yes, let me dive straight in because we live in a global world. We live in a world where there are no more walls. So, for example, anyone anywhere in the world can actually be catching this session live. And so it's important that when we begin to prepare children in the 21st century, and even as educators, we have to position ourselves to be able to be globally relevant. So there are three group of words or three categories of skills, and I will be sharing them based on acronyms. So the first one is the four C's. The four C's, that is four and the alphabet C. The first is critical thinking, the second is creativity, the third is collaboration, and the fourth is communication. So that's the first group of skills that every educator and every child must have to thrive as a global and digital citizen. Secondly, I have the IMT. IMT. The I stands for information literacy. The M stands for media literacy. And then the T stands for technical literacy. So these three forms of literacy is also very, very important. Then we have the flips. Flips, that is FLIPS. FLIPS. The F stands for flexibility. The L stands for leadership. The I stands for initiative. The P stands for productivity. And the S stands for the social skills. So I'm sure it's not our first time of actually hearing about the different kinds of core skills. We've had a lot of people come together, a lot of bodies, UNESCO, we've had the British Council, and some other international educational bodies come up to talk about a lot about core skills. But I would really want to put everything together in these three groups of words: the forces, the IMT, and the flips. So probably you didn't get any of the skills I listed. All you need to do is to actually just do a replay of what I just said after the session. Thank you, Inena.
Thank you so much. So you mentioned something that struck me: flexibility. How do you teach a child to be flexible? Victoria, let's hear from you. How do you teach flexibility? Looking at the curriculum that we currently run, the school system is based on strict schedule, right? A child knows what is expected when they come into school from 8 a.m. till they leave at 3 or 2 or 3 p.m., right? So how do you teach flexibility in the classroom and in school? All right, Vicky, can you hear us? Okay, I think her network froze. So I would direct the question to Mr. Okay. How do you teach flexibility in school? Okay, can anyone hear me now?
Yes, I can
Oh,
hear you, Nena.
okay, okay.
I can hear you.
I think their network took them out. Okay, so let me direct the question to you so that
Yes.
we don't keep our viewers waiting.
Yes.
Um,
Okay,
how
I'm
do
back in.
okay? Are you
Sorry.
back? Okay, fine. So did you get the
Yeah,
Welcome
sorry,
back,
question?
sorry.
Victoria.
Yes,
Yes.
I
Did you
did.
get the
I heard the
question? All right,
question.
all right,
I heard the
all right.
question.
Please,
Sorry
how do you
about
teach
that. Okay,
flexibility?
so
Yes.
yeah, what I would say is that for you to teach your child flexibility, the person that wants to teach the child must also be flexible. So, for example, we're talking
Was
about
first
lifelong
modeling.
learning. Now, I've come across some adults that can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
yes,
Can
you
you hear me?
can.
All right. So
Yes,
I
please.
know some adults that when you bring a new concept to them or you want to teach something to them, they are not, receptive. They are not open to learning because they believe that they have all of the knowledge. And like Dr. Tony said, one of the skills that we need to learn now is the skill of collaboration, right? The skill of learning from one another. So an adult that does not have that skill, that is not flexible himself, that is not open to learning, that is not open to new ideas, would not be able to communicate the same thing to whatever student that they have in their lessons. So the first thing is that the person himself or herself should be flexible. If you are flexible, you'll be open to the challenges of your learners. You will know when they do not understand the concept. And sometimes some children are trying to communicate with the teachers and say, I don't understand this part. And then there's a frustration from the part of the teacher, and you're like, oh, I already explained this a number of times and you don't understand. That also shows that the person is not flexible. And if you're not flexible, you won't get that communication that the child is trying to pass across to you. And if that is not there, there is no how you're able to provide other alternative ways to make the learning more interesting, or in a way that the child understands it better. So we're talking about competency based lesson. I'm sorry, learning. In a traditional learning, for example, right, we teach the children the same way. Some people try to do differentiations and all, but we've noticed that, or I've noticed that with competency based lesson, I'm sorry, learning, I keep saying lesson, when you've taught that particular skill, you don't even if you have given the same kind of assessment to everyone, and you've now realized that that child is not understanding, or is not doing well in that based on the standards that you set, you cannot call that child aside, right? And then look for other methods. Okay, show me other ways that you can express yourself, or that you can show the learning that you've gotten from this thing. And this thing is something I got from a concept called the universal design for learning. Universal design for learning. And what that does is that you are preparing ahead of the lesson, ahead of the class. You know all the barriers that every child in your learning has. So that way you've prepared for any child, irrespective of the barrier to learning that they have. And when you're coming in, if they have any issues at all, you are able to, because you've prepared ahead. You're not just, looking for a solution in the class and looking for how to adapt to it, but you prepared ahead of that learning. And that way, if that child gets, used to that your method of teaching them and attending to their solutions during classes, in a way that it's not something that you want to do directly, but subconsciously the child is already also learning to be flexible in the way he receives whatever content you're teaching for them as a class. So it's not like you will say we're teaching flexibility in school today, but it's just in the process in which you communicate your learning and the content that you teach to that child. And the child, because of the regular practice, the consistency in the way you are delivering the lessons to them, they also automatically and subconsciously start learning that flexibility as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that brings me to my next question. Are we really driving competency based learning in Africa? Let's use Nigeria as a case study. Are we really driving competencies based learning in Nigeria or in Africa? I'm saying this because I've done a little research about countries, some countries in the world, and I can see that countries that adopt the CBC, that's the competence based curriculum, are already dropping some subjects, some outdated subjects, right? We talk about flexibility. So I just want to ask that question. It's a dicey question, but I want us to be as honest as possible because we need to see how we can drive um, flexibility in our own curriculum. So I'll direct this question to Mr. Okay. Are there certain subjects or certain learning principles in our current curriculum that do not align with CBC, that's competence-based curriculum, from what we've been discussing so far?
Okay. That question is directed at me. I keep
Yes.
the network keeps fluctuating. So I heard of the first part of the question, which you asked, are we is CBC happening in our schools or in our classrooms? The difficult answer is partly. I wouldn't say no categorically. I would say partly. It's quite difficult at the moment to change our beliefs. Our way of looking at the curriculum. The teachers in the classroom, the way they have been teaching for a long time, having to alter some of these things. It's even difficult from top level where the management has to possibly change the curriculum and make the curriculum now focus on some of the core competencies. What we can start to do for me is to start from leadership to begin to sensitize our teachers for them to realize that the time, the days of just of knowledge accumulation is beginning to phase off if it has not phased off already. And the time for teaching children core competencies has arrived. It has arrived a long time ago. It just didn't arrive today. It has actually arrived a long time ago. But through research, people are beginning to see that it's very important now. Because the gap between what we are doing in the schools and what is happening in the workplace is quite large, quite wide at the moment. You begin to see that at the workplace, some of those facts that we have taught our children in schools are of no relevance in the workplace. Core competencies or like problem solving skills, like communication skills, which a lot of there's this feedback. Sorry, which a lot of the children that go through our schools, from the primary to the tertiary level, are still lacking communication skills, be it written, be it spoken, be it through ICT. Collaboration skills, the ability to work in teams. These are core competencies, creativity, and I know somebody spoke about that. These are core competencies that teachers need to first of all that need to realize are important in that they imbibe in our children. But the first problem is that teachers don't even possess those core competencies. The ability to pass that down to the children is almost impossible if you don't have these competencies embedded in you. So the first challenge, like I said, the first solution is to start from leadership. How do leaders, educational leaders, begin to train the trainers? That means begin to work on the teachers. For someone like me, work on my teachers to imbibe these skills first, to realize, to be self-aware that these skills are what these children will need outside the classroom in real life. Imbibe those skills, then begin to look out for those skills as we teach the subjects. Um, I would say through research and through over time that I know clearly that even the schools in the Western world, a lot of them are still struggling with these things. There's still a lot of focus on testing. The No Child Left Behind policy of the United States obviously has made testing one of the top things that must happen in the classroom. What are they testing? They're not testing core competencies. They are testing knowledge. They are testing the ability of children to regurgitate knowledge. So it's a struggle over there. It's still a struggle here, but that the conversation is happening.
Wow.
The positives that we must take. Are you hear me? Hello?
Yes, you
It's
froze
giving
for
a
a
lot of background.
moment.
Hello? Can you hear me?
You froze, yes, we can hear you now, but you froze for a moment. I think the last part, and I want to take you up from that point you made. I think you made a very valid point about training the trainers, right? Because even if we have to revamp the curriculum in any way, You still need to train the trainers. And I'll direct this question now to Dr. Toyin. Um, what has culture got to do with CBC? That's competencies based curriculum. You understand? Because I've been doing a lot of research, like I said, and I noticed that countries that adopt the CBC do not necessarily have a uniform kind of curriculum. You understand? Because when you're looking at competence, you're looking at a core skill that you want to achieve
Yeah.
in a particular region. So let's say, for instance, I was studying the Chinese system of education, and they had adopted the competencies-based learning for over 20 years now because they needed to drive their economy. You
Yeah.
know, most times I feel that our educational sector is being delineated from the real mainstream sector of the industries and other parts, other sectors of the economy. You understand? And that's one of the major problems or challenges that we have in Africa. It seems our own competencies based learning is preparing the children to work, right? To apply for jobs, to finish school, apply for a job, get 2-1 or first class, and you even see it in the manner of approach at which we recruit staff, right? But now we need to ask this question: what has culture got to do with competence? Is our current reality in Africa, is it in line with the kind of curriculum that we operate or we run in our schools?
Okay, so this question actually has children and grandchildren and great grandchildren. So you're just going to permit me to flow with my my line of thoughts. So first off, I sincerely, this was one thing my organization, Core Skills Transformational Academy Limited, actually foresaw when it got established, and that's why it's called Core Skills. And that was why I was really excited when I was invited to talk about lifelong learning as well as competency based learning. So, what we were able to do was to see how we could actually bring these core skills, training teachers, helping schools, even organizations to ensure that these core skills, competency based skills, and lifelong learning skills are being taught and are being enshrined into various institutions, schools, colleges, and organizations. So, to begin with, now, sincerely, when we're talking about the aspect of culture and we're talking about marrying it with the workplace and talking about marrying it with competency based or lifelong learning. It is a circle. And I loved the scenario that you spoke about, you having to research about China and having to see that in the last 20 years, they have had to tailor their curriculum towards competency based learning based on the needs of the country. Now, this is possible because as a nation, they had a vision, they had where they were going. And so it was easy for them to be able to connect and sync the past, the present, and their future. So without having an overall vision as a nation, sincerely, there is little or nothing that can really evolve over time. The only thing that can be done, which a lot of us are doing, is especially is in the private sector, trying to see what we can do with our limited resources. I'll call it limited resources because for the kind of economy that we run in Nigeria, most especially, we have the government having a larger share of resources, a larger share of autonomy, the laws, the policies, the legacies are there. So even what most private institutions and private organizations are doing is just like a drop of water, trying to put a drop of water into a mighty ocean. You can imagine how insignificant that could be. Having said that, the aspect of culture for me, yes, culture is like a way of life, ways in which people tend to do things. I think culture for me, it's not so much a big deal as of how we can begin to see how we can move from having fixed mindsets towards some things towards having a growth mindset. But like I said, overall, it has a lot to do with, the overall leaders the political sphere, the politics, the policy, the governance, and what vision do we have as a nation? And when we talk about people feeling entitled towards, we keep saying that there is a disconnect between the gown and the town. So what that means is, schooling and the reality of the workplace setting. Even every one of us having this conversation this beautiful afternoon, you would agree with me that it is actually not what our schooling or educational system gave to us, is what we are displaying in our various workplaces, whether as business leaders or as professionals and employees. And this for me is a source of being encouraged that it's not totally out of place, or we have not totally lost it. However, the problem is that cumulatively, the effects of having to navigate and having to grow and learn competences individually is going to be slower. We are not going to be having a collective results and expected outcomes as to move national transformation. I hope I've
Hmm.
been able to make some
This
sense.
is you've made a lot of sense, but you scared me the more, because when I researched about these countries, I had hope. I was like, okay, Africa has hope if we can. But what you're saying now is that the private sector, for instance, is just a drop in the
Yes,
ocean. So
exactly.
how do we even make this change?
Okay.
Because the reality on ground is totally different from what we're teaching the students.
Yes.
When I've been a teacher and I've been an administrator, so I've looked at a lot of things to arrive at this conclusion. And that
Yes.
is why I said we need to start discussing about competencies-based learning,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Some subjects, how are we sure that some subjects are not outdated, right? So now, in our own little field, that brings me to the question that a guest has just asked, that how do
Okay.
we differentiate competencies-based learning from knowledge?
Mm.
How can you communicate, for example, if you do not have knowledge? So the question I want to ask is, what kind of knowledge are we supposed to be passing across to the children that we currently teach, that can prepare them for the next century? Because we will not be here in the next generation, right? This is
Yes.
our own
Yeah.
lifetime. So what kind of knowledge can we transfer to the next generation? We've talked about flexibility, yes, but now he's asking about knowledge, that you can't even communicate or be flexible if you don't have that knowledge. So I'll direct this question to Victoria.
All right, thank you so much. So, in fact, many of the skills that we're supposed to teach the children, many people have mentioned it. Dr. Tonya has mentioned it, and the director of DOIS has also mentioned it as well. So, for the children to be relevant for the field of work, and then the next, in fact, for real life, in essence, for them to go out there and be relevant, or for them to, maybe travel outside of the country and be able to be at par with students in other parts of the world. The necessary skills that we need to teach them are creative thinking skills. We are supposed to teach them how to collaborate. We're supposed to teach them problem solving skills. We're supposed to teach them digital literacy. Digital literacy is very essential in this world, because everywhere, in all organizations, in every sphere of life, in fact, there is nowhere that they don't use technology. If there's anywhere that technology is not being used now, I'm not sure what part of the planet that is, right? So technology is needed everywhere. Now I see that there's a lot of coding adverts everywhere. And I'm not saying coding is not bad. As a matter of fact, I teach that. But then people now tend to forget that digital literacy is more important, or in fact is something that is general, that everybody needs to understand. Coding is just for, not everybody will be interested in coding at the end of the day, but digital literacy is a very core
Exactly.
skill. Yes, it's a very core skill. Fine. With coding, it helps children to think critically, but then some children, it's not their strong point. They don't like something that allows them, but there are other ways that you can make them think critically, and there are other digital literacy skills that you can teach them. Many of us as adults now, we grew, when we were growing up, we didn't have access to all of this technology. computer devices and all. So some of us even have to go to computer schools to learn these things.
Yeah.
Now, these children are already in the world where this is what is being used, and then advent of AI everywhere. The world is just gradually improving. So digital literacy is very important. And then how do you, so I'm not saying teach digital literacy, although there is digital literacy as a subject, but you can implement the use of technology in different subjects that you teach. And this is not just saying, but I'm not an ICT person. I didn't study computer science and no. You need to know how to use it for yourself, for you to be able to help the children. So some people will say, but I allow the children to talk during lessons. There are more ways that you can allow collaboration during classes, right? You can use technology to enhance collaboration more during lessons. And I've shared about this before. So there are some in fact many websites, in fact there are some applications and softwares. Many teachers now, thank God for COVID. I'm saying thank God for COVID, although COVID is not something we should be happy about. But I like that during COVID, many people now began to learn how to use technology for teaching and learning. And if not for that, many educators in Nigeria, or in fact in this part of the world now, might not have gotten the little knowledge that they know about this now. So when we are training our children, we should understand that we're not training them for them to pass examinations alone. The goal is that after I teach this child, and this child go out there outside the world, and we don't have to wait till when they grow up and when they start, maybe getting jobs or something. From now, we should teach our children to start creating. So you've taught a topic, look for a way that you can apply that topic to a real life situation. So what can you create from this topic that I have taught today? In fact, we're talking about collaboration as a skill that we need to teach children. We as teachers also need to collaborate for some of our lessons. And I know that this might be something that is very difficult in many schools because there's this timetable. We all have our timetable. I know this is my time. I want to teach my subject. This is my time. I want to teach my subject. But there's something called STEAM. And I know that STEAM has also been widely misconstrued because I know that many people, when they hear a concept, they just want to quickly, jump into it and then start teaching people, yes, this is STEAM, STEAM, STEAM. But STEAM is more about, integrating arts in different subjects that you teach. And it's more of collaboration between different subjects of learning. So I might be a physics teacher and I want to collaborate with a PE teacher, right? And I've looked at a particular topic that I'm about to teach. And I call my PE teacher and say, okay, I want to teach, project, what's this? Is it projectile or something? And I know that in PE,
Projector, yeah.
yes, in PE, they do some sporting activities where you have to throw, say, a shot put and all of that. Okay, how can we plan this lesson together? Right? So that when they are doing that activity, they are looking at the projector, they are looking at the angles and all of that, all the key words that you need to teach them in physics. So they are learning physics, they are learning PE together. You as a teacher, you are demonstrating collaboration to them. Subconsciously, like I said before, they are learning to collaborate. Also, they are learning the application of, so for most of us in school, we just learned all of these concepts. We don't know how it's relevant to us in life. And then we finish from school and we're saying, okay, all these things they taught us now, how am I using it? Because we don't see how it's relevant. But we are beginning to do these things intentionally while we are still in school. Sorry, while we have the opportunity to change the experience that we had back then. We'll be teaching these people what will help them when they go out there. So they've created something. For example, the lesson I taught a few weeks back, I still taught it for some children today. They're writing the exams and all. So they work with this mental math quiz that they do every day as like a starter before their classes. It's something that was created by someone else. And I said, okay, for today, you want to create it by yourself. And they were excited about it. I said, the reason why you're going to create it is so that when you go back to school, or when you go back home, say during the weekend or during the holidays, say your cousin comes to visit you, run it by them, let them interact with it. You are the one that created it. Get their feedback and see how you can improve on it. That way, they're already thinking of how to create an application, how to create a game by themselves. It's not just teaching concepts and not teaching them how it applies to real world. So that's one common and the best way to teach, just like we have parents and children relationship. When we say things to our children sometimes and we don't demonstrate it, it's difficult
Yeah.
because there's something different. So we as educators need to demonstrate these things. And when we demonstrate it, it's easier for you to tell them, did you remember when I did this with this person? That's collaboration. It's important for me as an adult. When you go
Thank
out and
you.
also let them
Thank
see
you
how
so much.
sorry. I spent so much time.
I know, I know. Yes, you're giving us
Oh
so
my
many
god.
ideas and
I'm
a lot
sorry.
of ideas. That's awesome. You're giving us a lot of ideas, and I know that people are gaining a lot. One thing I gained from you is collaboration. Collaboration is key. One of someone from the audience asked the question that how can we make it easy for teachers looking at the limited resources? And I think you've answered that question in a way because when you have limited resources, collaboration helps you to build your archive, right? I remember as a teacher then, we collaborated a lot when we were preparing our lesson plan, just like the example you've given. What about, instead of a class teacher having just one lesson plan for him or herself, why not have a collaborative lesson plan where there's cross-curricular link,
Yes.
all the subject teachers are imputing in that lesson, right? Or subject teachers that need to be involved in that lesson will impute in the lesson and then have a more robust lesson. And I know that some curriculum are geared towards this. Curriculums like the International Primary Curriculum and CBC is actually geared towards this. Now, I want to also ask a question, and I'll direct this to Mr. Okechukwu. Um, my question is, how are we going to develop teachers, to build their competence before pushing them into the classroom? What do you think are the best ways to achieve this? I would need your input. I'll also need the input of Dr. Tony as well in answering this question.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I would like to just go back a bit to the question before this one about knowledge, the importance of knowledge in the classroom, and
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
are we saying that knowledge is not important? In answering that question, the first you would find that I don't want to go into the epistemology of knowledge and all of that, but the idea that if you're not teaching facts and giving children data in the classroom through the subjects, that means that is knowledge. Is That's the first problem that we have. If children learn how to communicate, if children learn how to collaborate, if children learn how to solve problems, that's knowledge. That's knowledge for them. So the challenge we're having is um, the focus, the way we focus so much on data, facts at the expense of core competencies. And if we can improve on that in our curriculum, bring the core competencies, even if it's at the same level with how we focus on knowledge, that's data or the content and the subjects, then we might have improved. We might improve. For some school of thoughts, they also say that knowledge, the contents are just an opportunity. It's an opportunity to teach the real thing, which is the core competencies. So I just wanted to say that because you see a lot of people say, if we are talking about core competencies, we might lose knowledge, we might lose the content. I think both can still work. Okay, so to the question about training the trainer, like I said, everything starts from leadership. For me, it starts from the top. And if I say the top, I don't want to even start with the top and stay at just the owners of the school or educators, the educate professionals and all, but to say from the political class, because you can't if you deviate so much from what the national curriculum is and all of that, you have a problem, because also other schools are also testing for, they have certain criteria and all of that for children to progress from one level to the other, even to the university. So somehow, some way, you are still streamlined. You have to streamline your curriculum to still ensure that you are in accordance with what's going on. So it starts with leadership from the top. The idea that these core competencies are important. The moment the political class realizes that, and that cascade that into the students'
Wow.
Oh wow.
the leaders, the educational schools will begin to change. There will be a bit of more focus rather than dwell on, have you finished the topics you have taught, the topic we gave you, did you go through the scheme, did the children pass their test, look at assessment, for instance. Look at assessment. How many schools have assess
Oh wow.
collaboration?
And he's
How many schools have that in their assessment? Sorry.
sorry, you went
You're
off for a
back.
bit. You said look
You're
at
back.
assessment and you went off for a bit. But you're back. You're back.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I said, look at the way we assess, and we are all guilty of that. You see a lot of focus in the assessments, our results, summative assessment, that still
Cognitive.
focus on,
The
children's
cognitive.
ability to pass, to regurgitate the content back in during tests or during examinations. But nobody's testing for critical thinking. How do you judge that a child is thinking critically? How do you judge a child is solving problems, is doing far better than others? How do you judge a child is collaborating? These things are not in the assessment. So it now starts from the top. It's from up there, and I mean top, me and them, to realize that core competencies are important, to begin to change how we train our teachers, from our training schools, to even how we train our teachers, even in our schools, to look out for these things. Because if we don't find a way to look out for these things and let our teachers be aware, see, there's one thing, there's the idea of looking out for them, and there's the idea of monitoring and ensuring that teachers actually do what you say they should do. Because if you don't follow them up, if you don't monitor them, you will see everybody go back to what they were doing before. So there's still a lot of work to do all through. But the first thing we need to do is to realize that there's a disparity, there's a variance between what we're teaching in the classroom and what they are looking for at the
The
workplace.
workplace.
But let me also say quickly, sorry, I don't want to talk too much. The purpose of lifelong learning and education itself is not limited to getting children good jobs. Is context failed? Well, there's that tendency for us to say, we want to teach these children these things so that when they go out there, they will get good jobs and they will progress in their career. But what about social reconstruction? For instance, why I say it's context failed. What about our country where there are great values deficits, character deficits here? These are things that we should also be talking about. Children, we are raising children that will do very well, that will go into the workplace and be very good there, but they don't have character. They don't have right values. It's also very wrong. You'll find them very knowledgeable, but also be intelligent thieves in the office, intelligent thieves
Arrogant.
in public office.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what you would have there. So we, as much as we're talking about core competencies, we should be talking about values, character. These things are also very important in the classroom, and teachers must also look out for these things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Dr. Tony,
Yeah.
before you respond, I'd like you to quickly attend to this question.
Okay.
Olaolukolako says that
Yeah.
having found collaboration in primary schools isn't easy since each teacher takes care of their classes, right? Like you have schools where one teacher is actually taking all subjects. How do you enforce collaboration? What is the way out in such an instance? We're talking about how even teachers should model collaboration. So in
Yeah.
such instances, how does a teacher model collaboration?
Okay, so sincerely, where there's a will, there's a way. I will definitely not say that your question is not valid because that is one of the things that the primary education has to offer now. But like I said, one of the things that you don't have to well, if you don't have the capacity to collaborate with all the teachers, the entire teachers in the school, I think you should be able to have few buddies that you are thinking alike, and you could come together and see how you can create that platform. And that is also, it's also a form of, you choosing to say, oh, we want to go the extra mile. We want to do things. We are literally breaking the box, and we want to do things to ensure that these children actually get to learn in a better way. So that is one. Another thing is, if you can, be very intentional, having conversation with your school leaders, like Mr. Chukwu's kept re-emphasizing. It's about having to share with them that, oh, sir, ma'am, this actually the best practices now. Teachers need to collaborate. And sincerely, some schools are already doing subject teaching, even at the primary level. But I know it's still heavily dependent on the school leaders and what insight they have to that kind of, methodology of teaching. So subject teaching is another way out where, you could have teachers rotate and teach different subjects and collaborate across subjects, like Victoria has also mentioned. So you could also begin to work towards thematic based learning. That's a kind of another way in which a particular concept is being taught across different subjects in such a way that children have an holistic view about a particular concept of learning. So it is more about not being dogmatic, and being open enough to be able to see how we can begin to, your school, or even you, two, three, four teachers within your school setting, can think critically and think deeply, to find a way around this and ensure that collaboration takes place despite the rigid nature of teaching and learning within your school system. So I guess that's one of the best ways in which you can go about it. And like Victoria also mentioned, sometimes it may not even be in the physical four walls of the classroom. You can always leverage on technology, where you have links that you can share, and you can even project and do some back end works before getting to school, so that you can conserve time, because sometimes collaboration time could be a major constraint. And so you want to do that, and so that when you get to school, it's just a matter of probably sometimes flipping the classroom, or having to just make people share from whatever it is that you have done outside the school time and the four walls of the classroom. So, like I said from the beginning, where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, if you are ready and willing to go the extra mile, you will always get the kind of results that you desire. So, can I flow into the contribution?
Yes, yes, good,
So
good. Yes.
taking it from there, sincerely, I'm going to mention the fact that one of the ways in which teachers can actually begin to see how they can learn about competence-based learning and all the skills we've been talking about is, first off, they should actually start teaching it in their classrooms. What do I mean by that? They should begin to learn, and whatever it is that they learn, we, a teacher learns twice, right? uh, Whenever I want to master any concept, what I usually do is I make sure I teach it within 24 hours. So go the extra mile, go learn it, and teach it in your classroom. Another way is actually for us to begin to look at the aspect of parent education. Parent education is not PTA meeting, sincerely, and parent education is because a lot of parents don't know that parenting itself is a skill. So we don't know that there are strategies, there are techniques in which parenting can actually be a very powerful tool to first of change the parents before the child begins to change. So schools that are very heavy on parent education, it's been proven that it just makes the work of the whole school community a lot easier. There are a lot of things, executive functioning skills. There's a lot of things. I can't even start going into a lot of things that had parent education on its own is like an institution. Then I would like to mention that sincerely, we have a lot of already there's a huge deluge of teacher scarcity, and even the few teachers we are having on ground right now, with the UK absorbing some of our teachers. An average young person do not want to be a teacher because of several reasons, status, image, the brand, socioeconomic status. I can go on and on. So we have quite and the average teacher out there, in fact, like let me just say between 70 to 80% of teachers never wanted to be one just because they actually found it as okay, well in the short term, let me get to do this. So those problems too are they're staring at us at the face. But then, if there's a lot that we can do around College of Education and teacher training, even before they come out of various universities and College of Educations, and we begin to enshrine and ensure that the skills are well taught and we see learning from a whole new perspective. It's going to go a long way in helping us as a nation, as a people. And finally, we can't still remove the place of even the so-called teachers that feel that they have this. There has to be a continuous professional development in place, right? And this can never be overemphasized. Even as a doctor of education
Yeah.
plan management, today I still had to learn some things because of the kind of skills and kind of um, results I want to get in the next few years of my
Few
life. And
years.
sincerely, one of the things I'm enrolled as a student in the School of Politics, Policy and Governance because this is something totally new and strange to me. And I realized that I can't do so much if I can't position myself and begin to learn on how to position myself in a place where my voice can be heard and everything that I
Yes.
know can be put together and ensure that
And
I can
practice.
help with policy process, formulation, implementation, review, and evaluation. So there's a lot. There's a lot. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you. As it's if learning never ends, right? That's basically what we are trying to say. Learning
Yeah.
never ends, and a lot of comments have been coming up here. I wish I could keep reading and reading all the comments. Amazing, engaging comments that our guests and our audience have been bringing up and putting up, contributing here. And I would like us, because of time, because this topic, I wish we can have like a whole day to dissect
Oh,
competence-based curriculum and
yeah.
lifelong learning. But because of time, we'll just have to pause here. And
Yes.
we hope that the audience have gained one or two things, have benefited one or two things from all the speakers here. And we hope that we can call on you in the near future to come in and talk to us about competence-based learning. Maybe we'll break it down, right? Maybe on some webinars we'll focus on collaboration. We'll talk
Yeah.
about collaboration very well, and in
Invite
some in
you.
another webinar we'll talk about maybe digital literacy. Another webinar we'll talk, so maybe we'll break it down so that our audience can really understand the nitty-gritty of competence-based curriculum. And that is not to say that there's anything wrong with our Nigerian curriculum, because I saw a comment from one of our speaker, one of the audience, a member of the audience, saying that what is wrong with our Nigerian curriculum, that we can still use our Nigerian curriculum and still enhance competence-based learning. There's nothing absolutely wrong with our Nigerian curriculum. All we are saying is that how can we enhance the curriculum to the point where it is more applicable in the
It is
real life?
enriched. Yes.
Exactly. And it is enriched and more applicable to real life. How are we sure that we are not teaching the children outdated topics, outdated concepts that they may never need in the near future? And how, just like what Mr. Oke said, how can we still use our curriculum to enhance positive values
Yeah.
and character, and build character and competence of the children as they grow older, so that we're not raising educated monsters? Because no matter the country policy or the country ideas and vision and goals, if you do not have character and competence to drive those vision and goals, then it is useless. So everything is still embedded in our curriculum, whether Nigerian, South African, Ghanaian, or whatever country you come from. But the most important thing is, how are you teaching the competencies that are needed to drive the goals of the curriculum? So thank you very much. I would like our panelists to give us their final words of encouragement or final take home that you want the audience to latch onto as we end the program. So I'll start with Victoria.
I haven't heard her voice.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to be very brief this time because I realized I've been talking too much. Okay, so I would just
Yeah.
like to say, in summary, like, don't be that water that doesn't flow, right? So don't believe that you already have all the knowledge that you have. Be that stream that keeps getting from a source and is flowing through others. In other words, be a lifelong learner. Keep learning, and as you learn, let it flow towards the students that you teach. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okay.
Okay, so for me, I think since we're educators here, I think there is a gap somewhere in the space, and that gap is the need for having objective evaluation tools for measuring competence in the classroom, core competencies and character in the classroom. We already have objective ways, the assessments we use in class to know if a child knows mathematics, he knows English, he knows science, but we don't have tools to measure if a child has integrity, is being honest, is being caring, is being is having it can solve problems, or it can collaborate with others. These tools, we need to create those tools, and that will come through research. But these things need to be in our minds so that we don't just leave at the discretion, or it's now subjective for teachers to just decide if somebody is honest or if somebody is caring, but rather having tools that they can use to measure these things in the classroom. So I think that gap is there, and I hope that we begin to address those issues. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Okay. Dr. Tony.
Sorry, I didn't know I was muted. So for me, I'm going to just leave us with these few words. It's important for us to reflect, all of us here. We have been given the gift of life, and whatever we do with it is something that we have to really think through. That's the gift we have to give back to life. And my question is, what exactly are you going to give back to life? What's going to be your legacy as an educator? What, when your name comes to the mind of people, what do you want to be remembered for? So if we can begin to work with the end in mind and begin to work towards living each day purposefully, intentionally, impactfully, I think we can always give our best. First, to the people we've been called to serve, which is the children in our classroom, the teachers in our schools, if you're a school leader, and then at the end of it all, you would say that yes, you came, you saw, you conquered, and that would be it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tony. Thank you, Mr. Okechukwu. And thank you, Victoria. This has been insightful. I wish we can keep going on and on to talk about this because I have more questions in my head that I would like to ask. And I know the audience are waiting to hear from you as well. So please, and please, when we call upon you to give us deeper insights into CBC, I hope you would adhere to the call and share more knowledge with us. Thank you so much. I want to thank all those who joined us for this session, and I want to say thank you for coming. Before we leave, I would like to invite the Advis sales team and marketing department to just come and talk to us about some of our Advis offerings and how it can help your school develop competence-based learning as well and become better in what you do as a school. I would like to invite Tolu. I don't know if she's here to talk to us. Tolu Wani, thank you for joining. I'll give you just 2 minutes to talk to us and then we'll round up the program. Thank you. Thank you to all our panelists. Thank you very much. Toluwani, okay, so if you are not ready, can we go into the live? We'll just call it a day. We'll wrap up and call it a day for today. Thank you to all our audience. We hope to see you in the next SGA webinar. There will be a link that will be in your chat box for you to click on and fill in the comment section to get a certificate of attendance for this particular webinar. So the Advis crew will be putting it there in the chat box for you to get as fast as possible. Please fill in the form so that you can get your certificates at the end of this program. Thank you very much and see you in the next SGA webinar.
Schools do not have to let the number of classrooms available limit their potential for growth. With PL by Advis, you can offer your curriculum to thousands of students all over the world with pre-recorded content and live, one-on-one, or group tutoring. Parents can now gain access to tutors in the best schools in the world for their child. No need to pay exorbitant fees while turning the area of weakness to strength for your children with a personalized learning tailored to their best learning method. Students can now learn topics and subjects of their choice from schools and tutors all over the world at their own pace and learning style. Scaling up in your academic performance shouldn't be a hurdle. Imagine getting support from a product that cares. PQ by Advis. Take mock tests and exams on external exams of your choice, such as WAEC, NECO, IGCSE, and more. Get to know your weaknesses and strengths in various subjects after each test through analyzed data. Click on the link to get started now.